have a quorum.
Yeah, well, 3 of us are here.
Can I get started? Or are you ready or you need another minute?
Nope, I'm ready to go.
Yes,
You good?
dig up.
And you have the handheld going, the handheld recording?
Right here.
Okay. Awesome.
So it's recording, everything's on, microphones on.
We're on Teams too.
Awesome. Great.
Oh.
Good evening, everybody. This is the meeting of the Economic Development Committee and specifically the zoning subcommittee to the Economic Development Committee. It is September 3rd, 2025. The time is 6:02. I'll call this meeting to order. John Rock here is the chairperson. The rest of my committee is here. Michelle Weiss, Vice Mayor, Councilperson Weiser, and then we have Councilperson Sachs, as well as the Law Director. We have a member of our Board of Zoning Appeals here, a couple members of the community, and our clerk. And I'm passing around a sign-in sheet, so make sure everybody signs that. I wanted to start this meeting with a statement. Yesterday, we touched on this committee, and the mayor had expressed in his mayor's report some concerns about the committee, and I want to just at least address it in a statement here. The Economic Development Committee, and more specifically, the Zoning Subcommittee, has met several times this year to review the progress of the Comprehensive Zoning Code redo. The information that this committee was working with was supplied by the administration. We have been vetting information from a draft dated May 2024, a 48-page document. However, it's come to my attention as of yesterday that not one, but 2 newer drafts dated December 2024 and September 2025 had been completed. The 2 later drafts at 184 pages each were withheld from this body. The document was released to the public, which can now be found on the city website, but again, no effort had been made to notify or to distribute the materials to this committee. Last week, the council also learned that the Economic Development Director, Susan Drucker, retired from the city. Susan was the project manager for the administration on this project. No one from the administration notified us or gave us any warning that this retirement would be forthcoming. Instead, we learned about it in a farewell email from Susan herself last week. At last night's city council meeting, the mayor expressed his displeasure at the pace of this committee. We have to remember that the original delay was getting the contract with ZoneCo executed, which took the mayor over 18 months to complete. He also expressed displeasure over the quantity and frequency of our meetings. For the record, this committee has met 9 separate times specifically for zone. In the beginning, the tempo was set by ZoneCo, who was preparing and presenting their analysis. Those dates were January 25th, March 22nd, and October 24th of 2023, as well as January 25th, 2024. When we received our first zoning draft in late May 2024, we scheduled the first committee meeting to vet this document. That meeting was set on October 28, 2024, and we had met that day, January 7th of this year, March 20th this year, July 8th, and now today, September 3rd, meeting roughly every 3 months. It was my preference to begin discussions in the summer of 2024, but as most of you know, scheduling a group of 30 individuals can be challenging and getting a quorum can be even harder. Additionally, the work on facilities had increased last year, which had become a bigger priority to get moving. Since it's the desire of the administration to allocate more time towards this mission, I don't disagree. I would ask that the council and the administration set up a monthly standing committee meeting. I think dedicating a specific day each month is something we can establish this evening. I would ask that this is in cooperation with the administration. Now, next steps. Knowing that Ms. Drucker is no longer serving in her role and that the position of Economic Development Director has transitioned to Mayor Brennan on an interim basis, this group will need to work collaboratively with the mayor and his team. I would like to point out that every meeting we had polled included the mayor and his staff. Every effort was made to accommodate the mayor's availability. We even moved 2 separate meetings to align with his calendar. The mayor announced last night that he would take over the zoning process administratively and will host 2 separate town hall discussions, one on September 30th and one on October 30th. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the second meeting. I had hoped the mayor's office would extend the same courtesy to me that I afforded to him in terms of scheduling a meeting. However, this isn't the case. I also believe that the 2 community meetings are premature, as this body has not yet reviewed the new 184-page document. The mayor is expecting the council to approve this 184-page document when his team only previously supplied 48 pages of the information. So he has withheld 136 pages of draft language from the community and from the committee. He then sat in those previous meetings while we vetted the incorrect material. Let me be very clear. We are not going to rush this process, which affects every single UH household and business. We will continue our due diligence, vetting the information thoroughly. Tonight, it is my intention to complete the zoning matrix discussion, which we had begun at the last meeting, and then turn our attention to formulating a plan to complete the rest of the work. So I will turn over to where we had left off at the last meeting, which was reviewing the comment matrix that was supplied to us by Susan Drucker on May the 2nd, and I also forwarded it to committee members on July the 8th. In that matrix, we just went in order, and then we stopped and skipped ahead to Warrensville Center Road, as there were a lot of members of the community that wanted to discuss this topic. So I want to go back to where we had left off, pick up from there, continue this matrix, and then at the end of this, try to figure out what our plan would be. July 8th is when I forwarded it. I believe we left off at, we had finished the multi-use residential district. We had already went over Cedar Road. Question?
Yeah, I think we ended up getting a lot of information on Warrensville
Mhm.
Center when we ended the meeting
Yes.
and we didn't go any further.
Right.
We also didn't look at, we know we have some stuff in the matrix that didn't fit some of the comments that we received from the residents on Fenwood, where the concern was regarding height. And I don't think we've had, as a committee, a discussion about that, because I took a quick peek at that 185-page document. And if we're gonna do something with the matrix and send it to ZoneCo,
Mhm.
I think we need to alert them that the height requirement they currently show in the document the mayor had prepared is not necessarily gonna fit what the committee's gonna vote for.
I agree.
I bluntly put.
Let me pull up the document. And let me see what ZoneCo had proposed for that section. Again, I'm going to be referring to the old document.
Yeah.
And I think once we get through this, we'll just be working with the new one. But what they had proposed in the old document here, this would be for Warrensville Center Road. Oh, I wish.
I think we can plug
I
it in.
can.
Can
sit
we?
there.
Can you tie in? Do you have
Oh, I don't know
a,
about, I mean, I could sit there.
Roberta, is there?
Do we have, well, hold on, do we have a connection,
There's a table.
Roberta, for like one of our computers to be
For
able to
that.
be used for
the
that?
Screen,
For this?
yeah.
I think we might, and that way, if you don't mind, Councilwoman Sachs, if we can hook
Yeah.
you up to it, you wouldn't have to move far and you still would be able to.
I can move here.
That's a great suggestion.
What,
Thank you.
what page is that on, John?
Warrensville Center Road, the district begins on page 24 of the document.
For future reference, what we're talking about is on the city website. So you
Oh,
would
I'm-
be able
I'm
to
looking at the
download it there.
matrix.
No, the old one's not on the
Yeah.
website, but,
Let's see.
I don't, no, I don't.
I might,
Little-
I have the matrix. It's not 24 pages.
No, I'm sorry. I'm referring to the old zoning code. The matrix regarding Warrensville Center Road begins on cell A23.
That's
It's in an Excel file, A23.
35 feet is between the rear property. Yeah.
That was the rear setback. Yeah, that's, you're
Yeah.
looking at the right cell.
You have a cable? Oh, do I somehow?
We don't have a connector cable, that's
Let me think.
I think,
I can just,
okay,
You can what?
I can just go
If that
over there.
works
I'm not
easier.
talking.
Okay.
I'm not talking. I'm not doing.
okay.
Yeah, I'm sure. Keep it up just in case.
okay.
I didn't mean to disrupt what you had laid out, Councilman Rock, but I sort of thought we needed to complete our thoughts there and then go to,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
I don't.
I don't know if we'll get through the matrix tonight, but
There wasn't much more.
No, it's not that much.
And I don't want to dwell too much on this old draft because
I
the
agree
new one-
with you.
So, but we had the meeting set, so I want to at least be as productive as possible. So we can go over some of the things that we do know,
Okay.
like Warrensville Center.
I mean, I think that was the biggest, if I remember correctly.
Was the height.
The feedback from the residents to begin with was the height. The second thing was the driveway running up against the backyard with parking. It came out of the Plutus
Yeah.
presentation that was way premature, but a good thing that the mayor decided to do that.
Mhm.
Because I think we were able to get real feedback from the residents that would be most affected by what was proposed for that whole street.
Mm-hmm. And uniquely so, the Plutus design, we'll call it, was on 4 different parcels, 2 of which are on the Warrensville Center Road new zoning, and the other one was the mixed use. Because it engages a corner.
Right, but
And so
we've
the-
got mixed use, and I think Plutus owns some properties that are double, they own 24 parcels on Warrensville to begin with.
Mhm.
So it's not, I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility that they could come back in and want to duplicate that in another area. So
Right,
that's why I think in a way it gives us a rule of thumb
okay,
to look at. I mean, I'm not saying that we can scrunch, but I think definitely the four story was an issue.
Yeah.
Huge.
so the building height proposed by Zone Co was 3.5 stories for the residential component. And I believe what the applicant had done was just looked at the requirements of the mixed use district and applied it to the whole thing, which I had expressed in the planning commission. They should follow what goes on those parcels. Or take the most stringent. If 3.5 is the most stringent for number of stories, they should follow that. I gave recommendations, suggestions as to how they could achieve that. Let me refer to the mixed use area. The building height is lots less than 50 feet wide is 3 stories, but lots greater than 50 feet wide would be 4 stories. And lots located adjacent to Fairmount Circle at 5 stories. So I think the confusion there was between 3.5 to 4. The presentation showed a 4-story building. They thought they were meeting the criteria. I had disagreed saying that we should stick with the 3.5 feet. That's the more,
Yeah.
the stricter code. Additionally, it was discussed that it may not make sense to do mixed use mid-block. I say mid-block between major roads like Silsby and or Meadowbrook or Fairmount. It's just on the corner, I believe, Hillbrook, right?
Okay.
And so putting your first mixed use development mid-block between Silsby and Meadowbrook, it almost didn't make sense. I don't see a large demand for the retail right there. And I had mentioned if you remove that retail component, then we're really just following the residential criteria.
Right, we
As
talked about, right, whether we let them do a full residential development or allow office space. Right?
Yeah.
The anything at Fairmont around Gateway
Mhm.
is in essence John Carroll and doesn't directly affect, as it's currently in, as Gateway came in, it doesn't directly affect the homeowners that still may exist on Milford.
Not the building, the parking.
The
Yeah.
The parking's another issue,
Yeah,
but parking is low. And
Yes.
that's a different issue to handle. The issue that I personally see with it is where you've got the additional height butting up against residential properties. Even if we go to corners, how do we control that so the existing homeowners that are behind it don't end up in the same issue that the residents on Fenwood did, where we were squeezing something into that whole parcel and with parking requirements and everything else, then everything's butted right up to the back of their property.
Mhm.
And remember, when John Carroll, their first iteration of that building, it was a parking garage and
Yeah.
there was a lot of backlash. So it took
Yes.
a long time to get to the point where they are happy with it now.
Yeah, and I recognize there have to be trade-offs on both sides. If we want to try to do something different on Warrensville, and I recognize that, I just am highly concerned. I mean, right now, those structures on Warrensville are what, 3 stories or 3.5?
What was proposed,
No, what's there?
the
What is it?
duplexes that now?
Yeah.
2 stories, maybe there's a third floor on some of them. But it
So-
would be concealed within the roof.
Okay, so what we need to think about as we are doing this is that we are taking what exists currently on Warrensville and adding a floor.
Adding a floor, that's.
Okay.
Right.
Now, if we add a floor, what kind of effect does it have on the properties behind it? And then if we do that, how do you shield those properties from the negative impacts of what we might do? To me, it's a 2-step process. And having lived with a bunch of very academic planners for an extended period of time, they look at, oh, we're going to do this in this area, but they don't think of the ramifications behind.
Mhm.
I mean, you as an architect come up with quick solutions like, well, we can do a setback from the street, but maybe we need to do the setback from behind on the 3rd floor,
Mhm.
where it's shrunk in, that helps to cut down on that. Those are all things that we have to have in the code, no?
We
Yeah.
would have to have that in the code if that's a vision that we see that we want to, let's say we want to keep this at 3.5 stories in height.
Okay,
Okay, you have the whole half story. Understanding of the half story is that it's concealed in the roof volume. Similar to maybe my house, your house, we
Yeah.
have a
what would
a
be
third
the
floor,
attic area?
attic area, correct? So
Okay.
I believe that the intent, at least Zone Co's providing here, is that half story it's concealed.
And-
It's possible that ceiling clip or that roof clip towards the back could be lower. if you have dormers or something, to bring the height of the back of the structure down, still the front that's facing Warrensville, I believe, since we're trying to go for that mixed use feel, would still be at that 3-story. Maybe there needs to be something creative done. Again, that has to be done in the code
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
force the developer to do that.
And I'm really glad that Ms. Weiser is here because she lived through this on Jackson where she's right by commercial. And your whole neighborhood went through that. So you have a lot of insight that a lot of us do not have.
yeah, well, we
But
know,
the shielding, by the way, is
Yeah.
so important. I like
And
the
it-
idea of the dormer, but I also like mandatory type of, whether it's plantings or something.
Mhm.
the concerns the residents expressed, and I may get them, I'm doing this from memory, folks, and I'm old, so sometimes I miss a few, was that people now will be overlooking the back that was not overlooked before.
Right.
And I have a tendency, because we have that back and forth in the environment that I retired from, where you say, well, what about? You have someone who has purchased a single family home sitting in the back
Mhm.
that abuts a rental property that may have John Carroll students sitting on the garage roof that may drive them nuts, or some craziness going on. And they have a better sense of what is negative. It provides a negative impact to their property values and a negative impact to their quality of life. And it's hard. There's a trade-off there and I acknowledge it. But how do we find a way? And I think as we go through the code further, if we're gonna stay with 3 stories, how do we find a way to mitigate that impact as much as possible? Because otherwise, we're asking a large number of people to take the negative impacts of this development full on,
Mhm.
without any type of recourse or buffering or whatever. And it's the city's gone through this with John Carroll when they put the lights in at the football field. And then everybody that lived behind it had to deal with it because we didn't deal with it when we put them in. It leads to things, outcomes that we don't want. And yet I also acknowledge we want developers to redevelop Warrensville. So what's the carrot we have to provide for them as well? So, and if the residents from behind work, I think worth the committee, maybe we can find things that can help them and also end up with something really good for the city.
Mhm.
That's, I think, the goal.
And I had brought this up during the Zone Co meetings, because it's not just Fenwood, we have Saybrook, Milford as well, all of those
Yeah.
back up to this. For me personally, I would not exceed 3 stories. I mean, the 3.5, I get what they're doing, but I would not exceed 3 stories. Is there any particular feedback from my colleagues here? Is 3 stories too much? Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, I think we need to make sure that we keep that residential feel. That's why people moved here
Mhm.
and that's why they like it here. 2 stories.
Do I hear 2.5? Can we do 2.5?
I mean, the tricky
We-
part here is there's the whole economic model. I understand why developers are in business and what they do and why they do it. And if there's not some return on their investment, they're not doing it. And do we want to continue with what was student housing and duplexes along Warrensville Center Road? Students are going to be moving back to campus now before your requirement. Or are we looking at something that's different? And if something that's different has to meet a formula that makes it enticing for developers to do that work. Now, one thing that we do have citywide is tax abatement on properties in which you do improvements on. So if you buy a home anywhere in the city, you make your improvements, you could tear down the home or add on to the home or make a renovation to the home, those improved values are abated for 15 years. That has proven already with the amount of volume of construction work in the city to be a success as people are moving into the city, expanding their homes and taking advantage of that tax benefit. That would also be carried over to the developer as well, but isn't enough. I don't know. No, go ahead.
Thank you. So I know it's Shaker Heights, but the commercial or retail along, John Carroll, whatever that Hadley,
Pizzazz.
Pizzazz. How tall is that? Is that 2.5 or 3 or 3.5?
Good
How
question.
tall, how,
The existing,
yeah,
you're
because
asking me-
that would be
I
like the, what we're
Councilwoman
talking about.
Fact,
3
I
stories.
would
Yes.
caution you that John Carroll met with the Shaker Heights Planning Committee and they had numerous discussions. I happen to know somebody on the committee. And the agreement that they ended up with was not to go above 50 feet. And I believe that's what, 4 stories, John?
Sorry, where
I
the
just wanna know-
pizzazz is.
Yeah, where Pizzazz is.
Conceptual.
It looked like there's only 1 floor above and I'm looking at
There's
Google
1 floor
Street
above.
View.
Yeah,
So
it's very
2
low.
stories?
Looks to be 2 stories.
And
There's no-
50
I just-
feet would be how many stories?
50 feet?
See, we make.
5
them-
stories.
No.
I just-
Five.
Approximately 50 feet. is
Well, those
five
are short
stories.
floor
Yeah.
floors, maybe 4.
10
About
feet per
4?
story.
Cause you didn't need it
Well, you have between the floors too,
between.
another foot there, plus you're above ground a couple feet.
Okay, I mean, I was just thinking for visualization purposes, but if it's 2 stories, then that's kind of, do you really want another story higher than that?
Mhm.
Cause it's a solid block, as opposed to, houses where there's a little, space in between. I'm just.
But to put in
Visualization.
perspective, the townhomes that are being constructed at Cedar and Taylor, those are 3 floors. And let me see if it's available on Google
Connected
Street
three.
View.
Wow.
It
And
is
they are
available.
tall. They're tall.
No, it's not available on Google Street View, but it's in Google 3D. Those are 3 floors,
Okay.
plus I'm gonna kind of turn my
'Cause
screen
they have
around
that
here.
roof, they have that, yeah.
Yeah, main level, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, then the roof structure.
Is
They're
that
tall.
4? Is that 4?
No, it's 3.
The roof structure is the half, right?
It could be if they utilize it as such, they did not, but it's just a
But
pitched roof.
Let's call it a half.
Sure.
Okay.
That's 3
That, that way, John, remember, we're not architects. If you say, if we can visualize something and we identify the pitch roof as a half,
Hmm.
then anytime you talk and you go, oh, that's 3.5, that helps us.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess, yes, picture it as 3.5.
So those things are,
So maybe I would recommend, taking a look at that. There's only 4 built. I think they're building the next 4. You can get an idea of scale.
Yeah, if you drive straight down Washington and you hit Wynn, the dead end, that's where you can see them easily.
But that's a classic example where they had to pack everything in and build up to get the financing to work. Times 30 units. I thought it was an excessive amount of units. I remember on planning commission, I had asked that they cut that back to add for more on-site parking that had failed. But what we are left with is something that is similar to a 3.5 story.
okay, a 4-story building typically has a height ranging, if we can believe Copilot, 32 to 44 feet.
50 feet in Shaker is 20 more.
Well, that's on the other side, and that's gonna look weird in Gateway when they build the other side. Cause we're at 60 and that's gonna be at 50 and it's not gonna be even, cause they made the agreement and I was like, really? You don't want it to balance.
I think we have good notes. We have good
Mhm.
discussion. It has to go back anyways.
Right.
Mhm.
So should
think
we
it's a
ask
good starting point.
Zonco if there's some? I mean, they're supposed to know what we can do that would still be economically feasible for a developer,
Mhm.
and maybe ask them what their minimums are. What's the max? What's the min?
That's a good idea.
I doubt if we're gonna be able to do two. If we really want Warrensville to be able to redevelop, we have to find a way
3.5, which is.
to do it. I know you don't want it to redevelop. I understand that. Pardon?
Hypothetical.
No. And I understand that. I've lived here 34 years. Yeah. But but let me finish, please. We have to be as considerate to you as we would ask you to be considerate to us. We're not, I don't think any of us up here are out to say a developer's better than a resident. That's not the question. The question is, we have aging duplexes sitting on Warrensville. How do we reinvigorate Warrensville Center Road? And that takes being able to get somebody in to do it and to be able to also see if we can do some new things that will help transition the city forward. That retains, while retaining the residential nature of our inner streets. I can tell you when that development went in at the end of my street, because I live where University Corners is at Cedar and Taylor. It changed, and I live down near it. There are issues that we live with down in that area, but it also helped to rejuvenate a whole slew of homes in our area because it made the area more inviting for young families moving in. So it's the challenge of trying to do something new is to find a way to be able to do it in such a way we minimize negative impacts, but yet we are able to do something a little fresh. That what we're trying to do would take the issues that a lot of you have to deal with John Carroll kids and the deterioration of those homes behind you that are on Warrensville. And that's the key. How do we refresh it? In 2007, we talked about how do we put in elevators to allow people to age in place in those units. And it was too cost prohibitive. But we never got forward. We never were able to do anything further. So it's how do we find those things that will allow us to actually do both? And that's really difficult. I'll be the first one to admit to that. And there's not going to be any perfect answer, but that's why the city actually went to a professional firm to get input. And the other thing is we have to be able to keep our revenue streams coming in as well in order to be able to provide good infrastructure and the basic needs of the city. Those are the other things we have to consider. So I don't mean to take a ton of time. I'm
that's-
sorry,
That's
John.
okay. I saw a hand up and I want to give you a second to. Right. And we did discuss whether that's really the right fit for retail. I'm not convinced it is. The developer was not necessarily interested in providing that retail component for that particular application. I'm not saying other lots, but for that particular application, I just don't know if the market's there. Is the retail. Mhm. I hear what you're saying. There is a plan actually for University Square, which is actually undergoing the construction right now to provide 200 apartments.
They're peeling back part of the garage.
Yeah, they're peeling back the garage, bringing in more light. Retail is much less than what would be there from before. The top supermarkets, the trampoline park that's proposed. I believe just first floor, they would do some retail. The Macy's and Target would stay, but everything else that was in the traditional mall, those larger buildings would be for the 200 apartments. That's what's proposed. That's what's going in right now. Again, we had to look at, as Ms. Weiser said, revenue streams. We're not growing. We're built out. So to capture more revenue, we either look to commercial uses or increase our population. And that particular project would increase by 200 units. So. This would most likely be a multifamily residential. For instance, I'll just pick on the project that came before Planning Commission. Can't remember the number of units. But it was three, well, they proposed 4 and that was not correct. And I had mentioned that to them, keep it to 3. And the other thing you have to consider too, when a developer is looking to redevelop Warrensville Center Road, they're also buying the land and the building that's there. So from one parcel, you're already out 300,000 right there before you even take that building down. This particular,
No, he's,
I could just tell you, and just from my profession in these day and ages, it's just as cost effective to start new than to retrofit. Because once you get it behind the walls and you have to replace the plumbing, the electrical, all that stuff, it becomes just as costly than to just redo the whole thing. And that's just the market we're in. That's why we've seen this the way we've seen it. Also, you have to look at the buyer's market. So who is going into those units? What do they demand? It could be either. And that particular application was proposing apartments. It makes more sense for a developer to build apartments as opposed to condos because you're getting the rent from those units. Condos are a little more tricky. They're not as popular in Northeast Ohio as you see like in Florida or the Carolinas. Around here, there's just seems to be less of them. The market for millennials has been to rent apartments as opposed to buying a new home. That's just something we're seeing across the country. So we're responding to those market demands at this point. I don't post for that one, but again, this would vary by project. So
And
thought it
nothing's
was
final.
a little
This was
too
just a hypothetical kind
yeah,
of.
that was one project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
drove us crazy. One thing I'll say, this is not just University Heights that has to deal with this. This is something that every inner ring suburb has to deal with. And especially the inner ring suburbs that are like us, that are bedroom community, what's called a bedroom community. When we built out in the early 1900s, we were not supposed to have a lot of commercial. And the reality is, we also have to deal with, you want your roads fixed? We're hearing a lot about that. We have to have the revenue streams to be able to do the infrastructure that makes you want to stay here and not want to move away. And let me finish. One of the challenges is, even if you wanted to expand your home and something occurred where you could get the house next to you, the cost for you to expand your home is quadrupled because you've got to take down old construction that is required to be carted away in a certain manner. And that causes an issue there. So We have a challenge with what we have. And we have a challenge in areas where we could envision doing some redevelopment. But we also have to be able to make it, and this is, even the city of Cleveland deals with this. How do we do it in such a manner that the land is affordable to get a developer to actually refresh and do something new? If we could get them in to build big, single-family homes, yay. I mean, I don't think I'd fight it, but the reality is we just can't, that it would cost them too much. And I don't know if anybody wants to spend 800 to 100 to $1 million for a large home sitting in the middle of an area now.
Can you come to the microphone and speak into it? There are people that are watching that can't
Yeah.
hear. Or you can come here.
I'm sorry, I
It-
didn't
it-
mean us to get.
No, that's okay.
Road here.
Probably, but this is our first meeting because we didn't know all this was going on. I'm Betsy McCray. I live on Fenwood. We just moved there a year ago. So surprised.
want
And
you
it's
to
really
stay.
sad to think that we're going to be leaving because we moved to University Heights because of the charm of the old home. We drove down Fenwood and we were just like, this is awesome. We love our 1940s home. It's not perfect. Just like those other homes on Lawrenceville Center are not perfect. We know that. And we knew that when we moved in as well. But it seems to me, and I'm hoping that you as a commission will think about retaining the charm of the community and our neighborhood. We have an awesome, I sent a text out, or I put it on. But it would be nice to just keep it and not ruin it by having us look out our front door. We just replaced, which is gorgeous if you want to look at it, and seeing apartment building over there. That would be detrimental, I think, to all of us that live on Fenwood. So it would just kind of keep that in consideration. Why did people move to University Heights to begin with? Can you build something there that maybe reflects that kind of nature and not, a big monstrosity that's 3 stories high? There's got to be other options. And I think it would be great to investigate that instead of just jumping into, well, this is what we're going to do. So we would
Thank you.
appreciate.
I want to give an example, a good design example that solves some of these problems. And it's right in Shaker Heights, on the corner of Chagrin and Farnsley. And I'm gonna give everybody a homework assignment to check that out. That is an example of a multi-family residential development, not mixed use, but it's just multifamily, 3 stories in height. They look very charming. They look like Tudor style homes that are attached. And the configuration of them, the way
Would you describe it as like townhouses?
they're like townhouses. Yeah. They're beautiful. And I guess I know the architect, so I can ask for more information, but I would like to see how something like that fits on the Warrensville Center Road, because the street
Yeah.
facing of it, if you drive down Chagrin, it's exactly how you describe that charming
Yeah.
residential feel.
And not just this commission, but the planning commission and city council also, like even with John Carroll, when they're building their commercial on the bottom and their dorms on the top, we mandated that it kept the feel of University Heights, where it has the brick and it has some sandstone, and that's one thing that we don't want to lose.
And I think they did parking underneath.
Yeah, I see. There is parking underneath.
Yeah, so they don't have the swath of parking.
Yeah, they don't. No, I know what
There
you're
we are.
talking about.
That's right.
When you drive
Heaven.
past it, and remember Shaker is, you're coming out of Van Aken, which is very modern. And then you're going up Chagrin and there's a strip mall that is low. And then these, I know the thing you're talking about, these are built in and you really don't recognize them as a townhome. Now, how they look from the back is another question that we'd have to look at. But I think when you talk about design, that might, help to cut some of what maybe was initially proposed. I don't know if that helped.
Lower it back.
Yeah, they do look lower in the back.
Yeah.
It looks like they're one less story in the back.
That's exactly how I describe what we could do, is change the clip of the roof
They-
to
They
make it
went down.
appear as two in the back.
Yeah, and do you know anybody on planning?
And Shaker,
Yeah.
my partner does, but yeah.
Ask them about that and see if they did that in order to deal with the residents that were living behind. And that way we could get a sense of the reaction to that. Is that okay if we, at least, we need to look at these things. We truly do. I'm glad you're here. You're hearing us, you're learning some stuff. Remember, there's that town hall the mayor is having on the 30th, and I think your questions will be better for having sat through this with us as well. But you're certainly giving us a lot of stuff to think about.
One other thought too is as part of the mission that we had given to Zone Co. 2 years ago was the density portion of this. And that we need greater density to afford the infrastructure and the needs of the city. Since we're not growing, we have to grow in other ways, and that's by population or by having additional workers in the city. One thought that they had was allowing two-family homes throughout the whole city, basically saying anywhere where there's a house, it could be a two-family. We nixed that, and this committee said no.
No, no,
I
we
imagine
said
most
no.
people who live in
We
a
said
single
no.
family home chose to live in a single family home to be around other single family homes and didn't want to be next to two family homes. I understood that. I agree with that. I too don't want to live next to a two family home when I want to live next to a single family home. We did nix that.
It's in the
The-
draft, though.
It's still in the draft, but that's coming out. So again, how do we meet and balance that so that we keep the neighborhoods that you live in, single family, but still meet that mission of increased density? And that's where we were looking at the corridors, focusing the effort on just the corridors.
Because they're
Cedar Road.
already dense, and I assume adding, although I shouldn't say it, but I have to say it, John, you've heard me say this. This is the second most dense city in the entire state of Ohio. And there are individuals in the city that have rammed the density song down my throat because I have said we have density. Is it density to drive it? Maybe this is the question. Or is it maintaining at minimum the density we have, providing options to grow it, but to rejuvenate it? How do we rejuvenate the street? I mean, if we start there and then add the density question to it, it might mean less backyard. Maybe it means, as was already planned, moving the homes to the front on Lawrenceville Center.
Which
In
is
other
what they're
words,
doing.
Getting rid of
Setback.
the setback. Because those homes are set back, what, 50
Far.
foot, 55 feet?
From the street,
So
know
instead
the
of when
number.
you would
Far.
drive up the street, you're not looking at something back in the grass, which is how it was developed. But you take the building and move it towards the front, which then actually buys you a back of a
Space.
building not as close to your property line. That's the other consideration. If we say move it forward, how do we do that? If we move it forward and can keep scale, and how it gets developed may assist as well.
it's 50-foot setback on Warrensville Center Road currently. So the front face of the house is 50 feet. from the right of way. So at the edge of the sidewalk. What's proposed is 10-foot minimum, 20-foot max. And the reason there's a max is because they were trying to push the homes closer to the road. So it would be between 10 to 20 feet difference. Let's just say the 20 feet is a difference of 30 right there. The 30 to 40 foot closer to the road, further away from Saybrook and Fenwood.
And
And I'll let you, yeah, and if you could state your name and address for the
My
record
name
too.
is Andrew Wall, and I live on Fenwood as well. There's a couple different points I want to make. The first one being, when you mention the density and mention revenue, are you in an apartment building? I am paying rent to an established building structure that I'm assuming the owner of that building cuts you guys a check to say, hey, this $1 million property, the valuation is X, therefore I pay you Y.
So
So, how, yeah, I guess that's a question, is that when you talk
how
about,
do we get our revenue?
there's
That's
two
my-
ways, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the two largest
The
ways,
vice mayor who chairs.
the two
That would
largest,
be nice if
Say
that
that.
happened, but it doesn't.
two largest ways we get our revenue is through income tax and property tax. Income tax is large. That's, you're paying Rita. If you work in the city, you pay 2.5%. If you work in, say, Cleveland, but live in the city, you pay 2.5 to Cleveland, you pay 1.5 to University Heights. Okay, so we get 1.5% of your income in terms of income tax. And there's also the property tax. Property tax mostly goes to the schools. We get about 11 cents on the dollar. 60% of it goes to school, portion of it goes to the county, the library, the Board of Health. 68.
68% goes.
No, it's 11 to us.
it
So,
is.
when there is a new development, and let's just say it's valued at, let's just say $1 million. Okay. Again, then there is a 15-year tax abatement, so we would not recognize the additional value for 15 years, but we would still be receiving the property tax that they once paid when it was, I don't know, 150,000. So we're still getting the 11 cents on the dollar of that $150,000 value. It's the income tax that we look at. The more expensive homes, the higher income is required to live in a home such as that. So as they build these more expensive homes throughout the city, it's generating households that have higher incomes that help our bottom line. So the reason we don't want, and this is why we do housing inspections, exterior inspections, that sort of thing, is to maintain property values and maintain the housing stock that's at a higher value to maintain that. Looking at Warrensville Center Road, which needs help. I mean, really, rejuvenating that corridor could lend itself to having a higher income household move in. Again, if there's just apartments, it's going to be an income that would demand a $2,000 a month rent, which is what a lot of these apartments are going for now. For 1 bedroom, two bedroom, 2,500 up towards 3,000 a month. So that's where we get our revenue. There's other streams too, we get gas tax and other little things, but those are the two biggest components. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, basically income tax. Property tax is nice. It's sort of there. It provides a cushion. It's the income tax that really saves this city, that keeps us going. And those 208 apartments at University Square, that's a cash infusion into the city, because the people who live there are going to be paying income tax that we don't have right now. And to be bluntly honest, in terms of things like that are being cut back at the state level, because the state keeps nipping the local government fund, that where we used to get a proportion of sales tax, our friends in Columbus are going, oh, we need more money here, so we're going to take it out of your pockets. That hurts us. And when I say us, it's all of us, because that's money we use for roads. That's money we use for the park, for the pool. That's the portion, some of what drives this. Students work while they're here. They pay income tax. That's wonderful. And I'm not knocking students, but renovating and updating Warrensville Center actually provides something where we're gonna have people living there that are not students, people that are living there and working. And apparently, when you're younger, and I see a few younger people, today, the model is I want to live and I want to be able to walk out. I don't necessarily, some of them don't want to have cars. I want to be able to walk out, walk up the street and have coffee and be with my friends. And that's why the idea about at the corners, maybe having some retail, small shops that would fill that need is there. Um, it works in some areas, some cities like in Lakewood where they had the model because of streetcars to begin with. And then they've just come through and rejuvenated those areas. They're able to pull it off. We've got a difficult area to deal with in Warrensville Center. It's not as easy. It just isn't as easy.
Right,
Um,
in a single family house on a 4-lane busy street is just not.
Yeah, people don't want to live there because if the kids get out, you know, I wouldn't want a little kid to go running out in the middle of Warrensville Center.
Did I answer your question or did you have another
Yeah, so
question?
that's.
Okay.
A good thing. I mean, and then the other aspect is you had just mentioned you wouldn't want to be living next to a 2-family home. Or let's even multiply that 3-family home, even an apartment building. And so the same sentiment kind of rings true for folks on our street is it's like, we all put 300,000 plus down to buy our homes. We've all put, I mean, if you went up and down Fenwood,
Mhm.
everybody's been putting money into their driveway, into this, into that. Like, I mean, it's a beautiful street that people care a lot about because we made the investment up front, as are a ton of people around the city as well. That it's sometimes scary on our end, especially like some of the younger families. There was a good chunk of money we put down, a decent amount of our like assets and it all kind of tied up into that house. So if I bought for 315 and I am forced to sell at 285 because just as you said, a lot of, it's not attractive necessarily to live on Warrensville on that 4-lane road. You're gonna start to see that kind of move into the street as you go towards Jesu, as you go towards John Carroll and see those property values also drop because that density problem, we like that single family home environment. That's why we paid the money we did. If we didn't, we could have chosen a house that has that similar
But-
feel to where.
And you're right,
Yeah.
that we're not, I go back to the key point. We're dealing with 2-family homes along Warrensville. There's no way we can take them down to 1 family and really get it. John Carroll's moved the students into, is the last class will move out this year. That's it. Then they're going to be living in John Carroll housing. So now we look at not just, and here's the other piece, not just those duplexes on Warrensville, but we have single-family homes that people bought during the recession in 2008, where they have rented them to John Carroll students. So we're going to have to worry about those as well to make sure as they transition, hopefully they transition to owner homes.
Occupied.
The other thing is though, on Warrensville with the duplexes, are the people that own it? There are a number of LLCs that own it. I already mentioned Plutus, they have 24 homes and they were renting exclusively to John Carroll students. What are they going to do with their homes? How are they going to rent them? Are they going to try to bring young families in? Are they just going to sell them? Because they're, can do that too. We have to protect you as well, because if we lose Warrensville Center, we lose you. Then we have the problem you're talking about. If we find a way to do something on Warrensville Center that is positive. Positive. I know you hate it when I say that word. That is positive this way, okay? and minimizes aggravation to the rear as much as possible, and actually might even be something that would be better than what you currently have to put up with when the kids go partying. If you're on that side of the street, then we've done something positive for both sides.
And that's, I
So-
think, where the code comes into play.
Right.
like
And
being
that's
tight
what we're doing.
On what exactly can and can't happen. 'Cause if there's any sort of wiggle room, you open things up like
So-
the dispensary stuff, like retail, those sort of things, like I don't want. I mean,
Right.
if you want to smoke weed recreationally, have a day. But like, I also don't want that to be what
Right.
butts up to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
18-month-old in my.
So,
Yeah.
and that's where planning commission and BZA come in, and that's why they're part of this committee for the zoning code, because they have the final say on that before it goes to council. One thing that I wanted to mention that we could put in the notes, and then, maybe we can move on to the next
We have
piece,
to,
is
yeah.
that. Yeah, sure, let me just say, one other thing is, with that huge setback on Warrensville, and it's on Cedar too, because this also applies to Cedar Road, by the way. It's not gonna just apply to Warrensville. We could maybe put a note to speak to the zone code that there has to be a mandatory buffer with plantings to Saybrook and Fenwood that gives you some peace of mind because there is so much setback. And then, if they could have smaller backyards or no backyards, depending on what it is. But that could give some shielding, and that could also give benefit to the residents that live on those streets.
We'll have to change
I-
the current buffer. And
Yes,
we've always had to change it, we just haven't. Have to expand it if you're.
and we can make it mandatory.
And just one more thing before you say something, in the zoning code, we can actually specify what can't go there.
Yes.
So if you don't want a gun
Which-
shop there or a weed shop or whatever, tattoo parlor, you can actually by zoning prohibit
And
these
in,
particular things.
for example, in Bell Tower, which is the new University Square, we prohibited certain establishments to go in there in the contract.
Okay, this
So I'm Zachary Coppice at 2366 Fenwood Road. I mean, I was gonna talk about the traffic right off the bat. You had commuters coming in, and now how many students are just gonna live right there inside, University Heights? We're having hundreds and hundreds of more kids that are gonna be in there. Then you're adding 200 at least. That's a plan for the first building, families. You can't even pull out onto the road there. Like, there's no lights there. It's always backed up. People park in the craziest places, and you're sitting there thinking it's a car coming, but no, they parked in like the middle of the road or whatever. But I'm disappointed because you said that millennials aren't buying houses, and I did buy a house and I put a lot of money into it. And I'm gonna take that value, and I was hoping to give it to my children one day, maybe get a bigger house. And now it's going to a developer. And my privacy is being given to that developer. My sense of quiet's going to be given to that developer so they can get their money and you guys can get your money, but it's going to be at our expense. And that's frustrating. But the part that really frustrates me is when we had our first meeting and the developer was here and we walked out. I got into my car, which is a 2013 Kia Soul that I bought in college because I can't afford a new car right now. And that guy got into a brand new BMW. And so once again, we'll pay it. I mean, it sounds like it's basically a done deal, but we'll take the brunt. They'll get what they want. And I think that's all we can do, really.
But the key is the people living there.
Us.
No, the other people too.
Do you know how many apartments are available in a 1.5 mile radius of University Heights right now?
How many we got?
220 available apartments. 220, 70 available single family homes.
That is, that now, see,
That's
this,
interesting.
we
Good.
need to
We need
ask
that
for those
information.
reports as
People have to
well.
work with
This
So-
is the kind of reports the council.
But that's also concerning that these questions haven't been asked.
So
Yeah.
one other thing is, the developer that came in
Oh,
was a concept. This commission right here had no idea they were coming in. Nothing is approved. We actually, BZA planning, the zoning code, city council, Those are the final.
But somebody's gonna get paid.
There hasn't even been an application.
There's no application.
No,
It's literally a concept. It has nothing to do, the administration brought them in for, I'm not sure why, maybe to give some people an idea of maybe what could be. But nothing has been improved, and every comment that you've made, I know that the four of us are taking to heart and trying to figure out how we can make it work. Like, I think a buffer would be great. You get more land, there's a buffer. Also, if you have if it's a condo type thing, first of all, I don't think it can be apartments if we're saying 3 stories. You're not having apartments there. And I think we're all taking that to heart. We don't want to put tall
Not
apartment
an
buildings
apartment
there.
building, but.
Yeah, we don't want
for
apartment
rent
buildings
unit,
there.
yeah.
Right, exactly. So we're taking everything you're saying, and it's Saybrook residents too that have come to us. We're really taking it to heart.
No.
You're the one driving this. And that's why we want this input. We want these drafts out. We want public comment when it's ready. We want you to come back. So,
So I guess there's just some miscommunication then, because when they did do the presentation, the man said, he didn't say, when will we know if we can build? He said,
no.
when can we start building?
Also,
Oh,
developers have to bid.
Yeah.
It's not one
That
developer.
was being.
This is like-
no change
He owns
in
the
the
land.
I'm
zone.
just saying, like, this is what we're getting. We're getting pieces. And I know it's not all you guys. I know there's another element to this.
We have not changed the zoning on Warrensville Center Road. They cannot build that there. We were as blindsided as you were on Fenwood when all of a sudden we were told, and did
Developers
he
coming
take it
in.
to planning or?
Went to planning
Yeah.
commission.
It was planning commission. It popped up on the planning commission and the mayor sat there and said, well, this is something I think could come in based on what we're doing. Well, that's fine. It was wonderful that it happened because guess what? We sat there and said, that's not what we wanted. And you all definitely sat there and said, that isn't what we want. We were just as blindsided as you were, and that's not unusual in the past few years in University Heights as far as being on council. We were blindsided on Tuesday when the mayor sat there and lit into, and I mean, really, he really lit into Councilman Rock. Councilman Rock took a heck of a lot of abuse on Tuesday night from the mayor of the city
Yes.
because he has not seen this as a, we need to hurry up and get it done plan.
Definitely appreciate that. And he made that statement at the end of the first planning. And that gave me a lot of hope just hearing those.
And we're
words alone.
still here tonight, not to look at what the mayor worked out with Zone Code, but to look at where we were when you came in the first time. So we're still working on an Excel sheet that was Zone Code's response to a whole bunch of our comments about their first and how, well, we only got 48 pages, the first 48 page draft they gave us to look at. I can tell you for Cedar Road, I argued we needed to do something on Cedar if we were going to do something on Warrensville Center, because the west end of the city doesn't get the care that this end gets. I live there, I can tell you that. And Zone Code came back with, oh, Cedar's not as wide, it's more commercial, and we don't, and I'm like, okay, let's tell Zone Code to sharpen up and give us ideas. We need to do some spruce.
Then I apologize to everyone.
No need to
I
apologize.
I just want to say though, we got
Good you're here.
one part of our government telling us one thing, and then we have another group telling us another thing. We're trying to figure out how we're supposed to mobilize, how we're supposed to
Okay,
organize,
here's-
and we're getting all these.
The zoning code for University Heights cannot be implemented by the administration of the city. No matter who the mayor is, city council has to approve it. So you are talking to the people that have to approve the code.
Well, I appreciate
And
that.
that's not going to be a fast process.
No.
Good.
No.
Make it as long as
This-
possible.
This is, it's gonna take years,
It's
even
the
if this is
painful.
passed next year, you're talking about years.
All right.
And-
Thank you.
And Yeah.
will rest easy tonight. My wife will rest easy tonight.
Don't want you to go anywhere.
Yeah, it just,
One
I'm,
of the, see those kids grow up.
yes,
They
thank
go to
you.
John Carroll.
I don't want to knock those developers, but they just came in their suits and it just rubbed me the wrong way.
Right,
And
just explain,
Not here in my suit.
no, we should get you one.
just to clarify on, and just to clarify on that, you know, project, again, they haven't even filed an application. When they talked about how soon can we build, they're meant, how quickly are you gonna pass this
Hmm.
new zoning ordinance?
Well, I appreciate that. Maybe we come up with a way, one source of what's really going on and we just put that one thing out.
Follow our meetings. I'm
Well, I
being
did that.
very
I got very
clear.
confused.
This stuff has to come through this committee to even get the way council is structured. We operate in subcommittees. Our subcommittees look at specific portions. The vice mayor has worked very hard to put people on our subcommittees that have some expertise. I do building and housing. I'm sort of urban development, redevelopment type stuff because I'm out of urban studies and public administration. Mr. Rock's an architect.
A good one too, from what I
And,
heard.
and the vice mayor is the money.
She,
She.
well, I don't know how to
knows
say
dollars.
it. And she's good with money.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing where we sit here and it drives the mayor crazy because we don't kick things out real quick. And it's not because we're stalling, it is because we're trying to figure out
Due diligence.
how to do the very best.
All right.
Um,
I don't
Mrs.
like,
Sachs does service and utilities. The two of us have just spent a year buried in trees and weeds. And, you know, the mayor's angry with us for it, but we took an ordinance that he dumped to us and we have done a lot of revisions in our committee on trees. Now we're working on the weeds because people want natural gardens and things, and we're trying to deal with how to bring that into the community in an appropriate manner. So this is going to happen overnight, okay?
Good.
We got a long way to go and we got a lot of stuff to hear. One final comment from me, and I said this at the meeting on Tuesday. Living here 34 years, the one thing that amazes me about this town is the amount of good, solid thinking that comes out of our residents. Our residents keep us from doing stupid stuff more often than you would imagine. So we're not, you know, we're sitting here
Yeah.
and we're gonna play ball with you. We're gonna talk one to the other side. But we need that back and forth to get to a point where we're all pushing together in the forward direction and that we're doing the best for the city we live in. That's
all right. And I just wanted to say that last thing, you know, we're getting conflicting information. It's coming in the middle of the night in an email sent to somebody who just happens to share it. And that's the only way we found out. And then we have to come here as fast as we can, because under our understanding, we have an agency getting ready to build, but that's not true. That's what we found out right now. So we got all these things coming through and it's just difficult because we got to figure out what the truth is.
agendas up on UH discussion, which I think one of you is hooked into and passing along. And I also am trying to do summaries from the meetings as well. So I'll keep working on it because I know residents don't check the city website for this stuff.
Go ahead, if you can give your
Good
name
evening.
and address for the
Just a
record.
couple short, quick comments where, what I'm thinking, I'm just coming into this now. My name's Gil Holzheimer. I live on Fenwood with these fine neighbors here too. And I visualize, you know, what are we talking about these new places? What do they look like? And I, like John mentioned, you know, as an example of what I like, what I don't like. And what I can respond on is John's comments on the house, no, the probably condos off in Shaker Heights. on, I think you said Sabrina Farnsley is?
I think those are.
Yeah, and
But yeah.
if we had something like that in that strip, that's beautiful. The brick, the traditional look, that's very nice. Limited heights, I'm not sure how they cut that on the backside, I don't know. But to me, that's an attractive thing. If I compare it to what was brought up, which is over on Taylor Road, near Kane Park. I look at those and I say, where do they come from and how they fit in? Now granted, it's only one building up or maybe two at this point, but they're an ugly goose right now and they just don't cut it. And putting those on Warrensville, I would be very up in arms about and not bring that. The only other thing I just want to mention, just to take into consideration, may not even be a factor in here, but we talk about how, Warrensville coming to, over to Fenwood, that back area, those lots. And I think one of the things that utilities get away with a lot is really ugly wiring. And it's especially utilities like, in my televisions, those low hanging wires is just really an ugly mess. And you see them between the streets. Now, hopefully when Warrensville would be done, that would be taken care of, or at least taken into consideration. In other words, wiring is a factor in there. I see it all about the city. So I think that needs to be enforced, put into law a little bit more, maybe worked into this here. So that's me. We comments there.
Thank
you.
Any feedback on that wiring? Or-
I mean, it's very expensive,
there's-
very wiring underground.
Yeah.
I think I was quoted a figure a couple years ago of something like $10 million a mile to
Yeah.
remove the poles. And
I'm not saying
Yep.
go backwards and change the whole city or thing
Yeah.
like that. I'm saying when they address the Warrensville properties, maybe look at, maybe wiring will automatically be buried in new construction area.
Okay.
Yeah. just
Any
something
new
to-
construction is underneath.
Um,
Any new construction's
That's
underneath.
Wires underneath.
Hello. My name is Jackie Bongiorno. I also live on Fenwood, 2381 Fenwood. I came late, so I apologize if maybe some of this was discussed, but I really love, one, how collaborative this discussion has been. I was so nervous walking into this meeting today thinking it's a done deal and we won't have a say, but one, I just appreciate you guys listening. I think that's so important. I've been on Fenwood. I lived on Fenwick previously. My husband has lived in University Heights his entire life. So we love the Heights and we live here for a reason. We actually figured out on Fenwood, we have a kid from 0 months to 15 years, at least one kid on that street alone. And but that's University Heights. It's this very neighborhood, it's family friendly feel. That's what I truly hope we can reach with this redevelopment of, can this still be family friendly? Can this keep the neighborhood feel? Height, I think, is probably my biggest concern, and maintaining so that we're not looking out our door to a big tall building blocking the sunlight. I love, I get to see the sunset through the houses across the street from me. I'm sad about losing that. And I know that's a very small thing. And I also know, a city doesn't run on emotions and the kind of the feel that we have, but it is what makes University Heights so special. So I appreciate you guys listening and I look forward to more conversation.
Thank you.
I
Great.
just want to,
Go ahead.
I want to thank all of you. I'm so sorry that you had such anxiety. You can reach out to us individually. I'll give you my card, whatever, or you can go on the website. One of you can click the green button and your question goes to all of us. And the question, what's going on with the developer? Or, anything that's on your mind, you can ask rather than coming in blindly shaking,
And I think, Ms. Sachs, you responded to me directly. And
Oh,
my
okay.
question,
I
and
thought your
really
name sounded
appreciated
familiar, of
that.
course. And
So-
we're very good about being responsible, at least the
Yeah.
people around and council in general. But please we're partners, we're a team. We're not, that's at least how we're functioning. So we can reduce the anxiety quite a bit, just talking and being transparent.
And I
Okay?
think maybe our goals are much more aligned than
Yeah, we're
disparate.
neighbors,
And
we're
we can-
residents, we're
and we can
taxpayers.
One of the, one of my frustrations as a resident, and one of the reasons why I ran for council was over the past 8 years, I've seen this. And yeah, it's been attributed to fighting between council and the mayor, but I think it's been attributed to different visions. Working with my colleagues on council, I think we're more, what do the residents think? And unless I have a vision and we will implement it. Vision is fine, it's good, everybody needs to have a sense of it. But we also need to find what you were talking about. I call it the secret sauce. It really is the secret sauce of this community. And if we can get back to that, where we really listen to one another, we may not all get what we want, but if we get the best that we can for all of us, that's what keeps University Heights the one you want to stay at, and I want to stay here.
Right.
So
I want to say just one more thing that I hope will help. Our city is not divided into wards or districts. We represent the whole city. It's 1.8 square miles. I mean, come on, okay? So if it goes to us, whoever gets, you might get one or more, you might get it all together, just personally. And then we do have the individual committees that we chair, but we all serve on those committees. So it's quite easy to get on our radars and many times on our agendas and have these types of discussions in committee. So keep that in mind, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree with that assessment that I think we all have similar goals. We all have to solve a similar problem. And I was just thinking as we were talking about apartments and that the growth of that in our neighboring communities, there are competitors right now. Cleveland Heights is a competitor and we're losing people to Cleveland Heights. We're losing retail to South Euclid. We have 59 communities just in Cuyahoga County, and we're all competing for that share. And that's what's so difficult about this. And short of consolidating, and short of that, and trying to keep your own neighborhood unique, these are the problems that we will have to solve for the future. And so that the secret sauce is what we have to aim for. One thing I will recommend though is Mayor is hosting a town hall on September 30th at John Carroll University in the auditorium. ZoneCo, the representative who prepared this presentation or this zoning proposal, yeah, the consultant will be there. So
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
yes, that 185
he's counting.
that I received yesterday.
We didn't receive it.
No, right, we didn't receive it.
it's on the city
Find it on the
website
website.
under the Economic Development Department.
Late in the day.
I went searching for how that page is looking and I was surprised to see there was a draft. So yes, we have some catch up to do. But I would recommend going there because it's going to be the first opportunity to have that town hall. I like to think of this as a town hall. We don't typically do back and forth like this in committee meetings. We do allow for public comment, but it's not typically this engaging. The town hall will be. That's what's designed to be. So we hope. I will not be administering that. That's,
Should be. And you
Should
can
be.
demand
We would
it.
prefer it be.
that will be administered administratively. So, yeah, I would hope that's,
And the presentation and especially for all of you, because you've come and we talked to you, please understand the presentation you will hear on September 30th. And if you go on October 30th, I think as well, is going to be the mayor's vision of zoning. That is not necessarily what's going to come out of this committee. So please understand that very clearly.
Yeah.
Yes, speak
Yeah.
up.
go ahead, you have another?
Yeah, just one more comment. So, part of this angst, if you will, for neighbors and anyone around John Carroll and Benwood and Warrenville, is John Carroll, like what they're doing. So our son Brian, who has 3 little kids, moved from Cleveland Heights to University Heights, bought a house on Milford. The realtor never said a word that all these houses were coming down. He's the second house in from the giant dirt pile. The day he moved in, I found out about the Warrensville redevelopment, which his house is I didn't even tell them. I mean, because, they're already like, oh my God, these houses are coming down. All the trees came down, it's a huge blank space. And I realize it's a project, it's gonna look nice eventually, but it is difficult to live through those things, right? It's just your home. It's a new home for them, babies and all. It's just,
Communication is difficult.
yes,
It is.
communication is difficult.
It
So
is.
this
It is
helpful.
very difficult.
Yeah.
Part of it is you don't know where to go as residents. Yeah, there's that weekly newsletter, but it doesn't necessarily contain in-depth information. And that's stuff that we hope the next mayor will work on.
Yeah, we
And
appreciate your.
City council is very responsive again. Like Mrs. Sachs said, you can call or email any of us anytime and we will get back to you.
Ask,
Okay.
and you will get an answer.
Okay, I think we talked a lot about Warrensville Center Road. And I gotta get on track because we have to figure out now how we're going to tackle this
Yeah.
updated zoning code, which has, the document alone has grown substantially. So there's been a lot of changes that none of us have reviewed yet, and we need to get, through that. So I would recommend what we're gonna do is look at, if you can go to the website and see the document itself, if we can at least just look at the table of contents so we understand what we're looking at here. There are 9 divisions, they call them titles, so title 1 through 9. The good thing is, I think we got through the majority of the zoning districts in previous discussions. So the bulk of the most challenging part, I think we had discussed, at least initially. There's more in here, development standards, procedures, nonconformities, those things we never touched.
I agree with you, except for one thing, what I mentioned to you, or I may not have mentioned it to you. Now, all of a sudden, we have a general residence district,
Right.
and in it was 1 family and 2
Two
family.
family combined,
So
yeah.
we also need to look at that because we separated that out when we were working on this initially, and apparently the mayor has put it back in.
Right.
So, I mean, we also have to deal with that.
I
John.
think we may have to just start making motions on what we want and not want in these drafts. Because this is being handled administratively, the work with ZoneCo, and as it should, because that's an administrative function. But the proposal that they're gonna bring before us that we will vote on has to meet our appetite. So I think in these series of meetings, we will probably start making motions on what
Yeah.
gets cut and literally just make the motion to do that. So that it has to get done. Would you agree with that?
I
Yeah,
think we
that
need
makes
to,
sense to me.
I think we need to go back and make the motions that we already have notes on,
Mhm.
that this group, that the committee decided on, and then actually
And look, just,
make motions that way.
Another option would be just to get the mayor as quickly as possible to present a document, and then you have something in front of you and then work on the
Yeah.
changes you want to make.
Well, who will be presenting on September 30th with ZoneCo, which is just in a few weeks now, if you think about it. I would like at least to finish the matrix so that ZoneCo has all the information. They got that information from our previous meetings. The matrix is their response
right,
to our question
right,
and
right, yeah,
comments.
okay.
I want to make sure that we're on the same page, that their comments are justified, or maybe we just don't agree with them.
Okay.
Okay, so where we had left off, we did talk about Cedar Road, general questions, theaters. I believe we talked about multi-use residential because we were talking about setbacks. I think that's as far as we went.
We didn't talk about university
No.
structure district yet.
No, the question that was asked was, why only 3 levels on parking structures? The consultant's response was a 3-level parking structure was intended to be more compatible with surrounding residential neighborhoods. For example, the University Square parking garage is 5 levels with rooftop parking and is adjacent to single-family residential dwellings. Allowing higher parking garages would be similar to allowing a structure the size of Macy's department store next to single-family residential use. The university is not
Not doing it.
doing the parking garage. That doesn't mean they're not gonna do one in the future. So we do have to have something in the code that would mandate what that height shall be. I'm good with 3 levels. Is there any other feedback? When they came before us with a concept, I think that was 5
It was
levels.
5 levels, but only,
It was 5
yeah, but-
levels.
yeah.
What happened?
Do we know how many cars? I mean, we don't know how wide, or like a 3-level could be very, very wide, or if it's compact, then it doesn't hold so many cars, right? Like we have a parking issue with John Carroll.
We do have a
They might
parking issue.
need a parking garage at one point.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. They were, and the fact that it's a sea of parking right now
Right.
is even less friendly, it's not a productive use of the site.
And you also, people forget, but we have Belfair, which is a huge campus. And if they ever add on, and they just did a few years ago, they might have needs also. Those are the 2 big institutions here that have the land to actually do that. I'm not saying I want a
Well-
5-level. I'm just trying to bring
Yeah,
up
no,
points that,
The initial gateway had a parking garage attached.
yes,
And I think it was 2 stories. And by being and I was delighted they came in at 2, not 3. But doing 2 stories, it was done well enough that it sort of blended in with the building and the buildings on campus. I mean, parking garages are gonna end up where they end up. The University Square monstrosity generated that parking garage, which has always been a disaster. It never should have been built the way it was engineered. But, and I can see why people that live on Bushnell aren't real ecstatic about it, but it's, I think if it was 3 levels, it would be very different, because that's not, cars are, the width, the height is substantially lower. But I wouldn't go higher than that.
I wouldn't go higher than that. I mean, the John Carroll buildings are typically about 3 to 4 stories tall. The Dolan Science Center, I'm gonna say that's 3.5 stories because there's dormers up in the roof. So it's a 4-story building, but we would call that a 3.5 story by that same logic. There are higher ceilings. Yeah, that's a science building. So they
Yeah.
do have higher ceilings. Garage has lower ceilings.
I think 3 is. a
But I
good-
think 3 would be the max. I agree with that.
What, okay,
I recommended that actually in the planning commission meeting, that why not do, I mean, obviously it's more costly. You have to dig out, remove the dirt. Mhm. Yeah, I did make that recommendation. The feedback I received was the cost.
Maybe
We-
some security concerns.
There was a project we had done at Case Western where the parking is underground, at the student center. Very expensive project though. I mean, that was a national design firm had worked with us. That's a signature building. This is not necessarily the same caliber that John Carroll's looking at, but I don't disagree. I think that's a better use of space. If you can go down a level, I don't disagree with that. Mm-hmm.
can I ask a question,
Mhm.
John, relating to this, to get back to this?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about this, what are you doing that you're sending this back to Zonco? Are you saying we agree or don't agree?
That's each line I need to know if we're agreeing with their
Well,
assessment.
I didn't agree with what they said about Cedar, just so you know.
And I think and I have to
We have to go through that.
We have
again.
to go through, we went through that. I know you did not agree with those comments. I have to go back and look at the notes.
Please look at the notes, because I said it's up to zone code. I asked us to ask zone code. All they did was tell us how negative it was to try to do Warrensville Center. And I said, well, what would they finally suggest in their toolbox? In other words, we're paying them, what do they got?
Right, and that, we
Okay,
did not
great.
receive that yet.
Okay. great.
Just more along the lines of the depth of the lot.
Yeah,
it's not
I
a-
know what they said. I'm saying, what else in their toolbox can we use there?
Mhm. And I will also look at the latest draft to see what they did come up with. Cause that was something we were going back and forth on. Neighborhood commercial, city comment was building height, and let's talk where neighborhood commercial, I believe that's all the retail, that's not University Square, so the Heinens, those plazas. Building height is 45 feet in new code. Committee is interested in stepping the height depending
Oh,
on how
yeah.
close it is to the street with varied setbacks. The consultant's response was varied heights using step backs can be an effective way to gain additional building height while maintaining a more residential scale from the street. Rule of thumb for maximizing building height is a 1-to-1 ratio between the street width and the height. The street width at Warrensville Center Road is 65 feet curb to curb. The street width at Cedar is 57 feet curb to curb. So it would be appropriate to have these types of heights along the street with step backs towards the rear of the building to be more compatible with adjacent single-family dwellings. A two-story building height measured grade to top of pitched roof should be no more than 35 feet, and the maximum height of 45 feet would allow for a 3 to 4 story building, depending on the ceiling heights. Each additional 10 to 12 feet of building height will accommodate another residential story, which we had, when you mentioned 10, yeah, between 10 to 12. So I'm in agreement here that we should step that back to give that residential feel along the street in those particular cases where residential is in the proximity.
Well, I think it's really nice to do it along the street, but what do you do to the people that live behind?
And that's the topic that we were discussing here with Warrensville Center. Can we step it back the other way?
Yes,
Exactly.
It's like the reverse. 'Cause
Yes.
I could absolutely see 3 stories in the front, not necessarily in the back.
absolutely.
So I'm gonna make a note here. Verse. Okay. Setbacks are a concern. They want to see where this district is located on the zoning map. I talked about that. Not sure if the city is ready for the 20-foot maximum front setback. This is not practical. Example, Jack's Deli and Cedar Center South. This is a comment I had brought up at a previous meeting, a couple meetings ago, that in the neighborhood commercial, the zoning that was proposed was to have the commercial buildings up against the street. And my comment was the practicality of that. When you look at some of these shopping centers, like where Jack's Deli is, there is a row of parking in the front. It's diagonal parking, one
Yeah.
lane aisleway. So it's very minimal.
Yeah, where Puffin stuff was, yeah, and the table. Tan meat Jamaica, Jamaica meat tan, and
Their comment here is the reason for the proposal for 20-foot front yard setback is to avoid front yard parking. So they're trying to avoid what I'm talking about here. Okay. A 20-foot front yard setback will not allow for front yard parking. I understand. All parking will need to be in the side or rear of the property. This allows buildings to be closer to the street and be more oriented towards the pedestrian rather than the vehicle. 50 to 60-foot front yard setback will accommodate at least one row of front yard parking and two-way drive aisle. This would encourage buildings with front yard parking. So the question is, at least for this committee, and this is something we'll be asking the community in the town halls, is do we want those buildings up against the street, or do we want to continue to allow for parking in the front? I can tell you that in retail applications where you have parking just in the back, a person has to walk all the way to the front, or you have a front and back door. And a lot of times you have to staff a front and back door if there's a point of sale. which makes it a little more complicated in retail applications. So I'm not sure we're ready yet to be up against the street, which is why I had recommended at least a one drive aisle with one row of parking. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Well, I live next to large setback Cedar Taylor. I'm sitting here thinking if we move those buildings had been moved towards the front with the parking in the back, it actually would have, believe it or not, caused more of a problem because of loud car music that when people drive back there, the dumpsters are back there. You've got the issue of juggling dumpsters and cars. There's a pro and a con to it. The way the shopping center on Green is set up, the parking is not all in the front. There's that parking lot in the back that goes out to that other side street. Having parked there and tried to run to Jackson in the rain, it's a pain, but it works. I mean, the idea of a 20-foot setback from a planning perspective is we want to minimize automobiles. So if we make it look like you have to walk here, you're gonna walk here instead of drive here. It's a psychological thing. Does it work? I don't know. Sometimes I think we get into that walk versus car debate too heavily. A large group of people want to drive, a large group of people want to walk. We need to accommodate both. I don't know, maybe having enough of a setback where you've got like parallel parking in front of the stores might work. And then you have parking in the back for the rest of it. It might take some of that pressure off. Parking lots are a pain.
Yeah.
They're gonna be, I don't care who's doing it, you gotta pay. If you're the resident behind it.
So one example I can think of that's more recent is the Aldi application. On the planning commission, which I serve, Aldi is situated in a U9 district, which requires parking in the back. Aldi would not go forward with that. It was not going to work within their business model. We extended that gratitude and an understanding that for Aldi to work on this site, parking would have to be in the front. Unfortunately, the deliveries are in the front too, which I totally disagree with, but that we looked at several different iterations of the site plan. That was the only way to get it to work. Again, what I'm saying here is if we want retail in that neighborhood commercial district, we have to understand that parking still happens in the front for a lot of retail businesses. Yes.
So Aldi's is a grocery store. There's a
Yeah.
lot of traffic.
Mhm.
I'm thinking where our annex is. There's a
Yeah.
diagonal parking in the front. That is, what's it called?
Like
Silver
the-
Bialys Bagel,
Huh?
or
Yeah,
Bialys Bagels.
yeah.
Bialys Bagels. Okay, so, to flow, it's one way, which is like a herringbone or whatever you want to call it. And then there's some in the back. How big are these retails that we're talking about? It
That
might
is
be-
neighborhood commercial. So that's the
Right.
district.
So that feels a little safer to me than Jamaican Meat Tan over there.
That looks too
That always
60 feet.
makes me nervous because it's so,
50 feet.
I'm talking now about Cedar and Green. Because there are what are those called? Ballards?
Bollards.
Bollards. And you've got to just do it just right. And there might be a car coming up and then, it's a little anxiety provoking. Cause it's instead of double, two ways to park, there's just one and these safety things.
Yep.
So there are different options depending on what type of retail we're talking about. How much traffic are we really expecting? It's not going to be all these type traffic.
No,
So
all day
it
was an
could make
exception,
it
but
a little bit more neighborhood friendly.
Mhm.
And I like the idea of Vice Mayor Weiss, I think said, maybe I'm with the foliage. you
Mhm.
know, having some kind of greenery as a buffer. Yeah, hand up.
Okay,
Come to the front.
I'm having
You
trouble
have to
hearing you.
come to the microphone, please.
Okay, so as a committee here, are we okay with expanding the front yard setback maximum to 50 or 60 feet? The builder can still go up against the road on the minimum, not saying no to that, but we want to at least give the flexibility that
So
a business
what you're
that comes in
saying-
could have parking in the.
What you're saying, they, if they absolutely want parking in the front, we'll accommodate it, but if
Up
they
to
are
50
willing
feet.
to move it up and put the parking in the back, we're good.
Yeah,
Then we'll have to watch the buffers.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm gonna say keep at 50 feet.
And I don't know if those two have to be connected.
Right.
In the
You don't
code.
want like a
That's-
zigzag.
That's a down the
you
line
know.
question.
Well, there's a min and a max on all, well, on this particular zone, the front had a min and a max. Rear and side usually just have a minimum. Discussing 1 and 2 family dwellings, committee wants to ask why you're recommending 2 family. We've gone over this. We're sticking with the 1 family in the traditional U1 neighborhood.
Mhm.
I'm gonna make that note again. Drive-throughs, okay, I did peek at the new zoning code yesterday when I had a few extra minutes. And I was hoping that the drive-through language would be more difficult to achieve, and the language made it more easier to achieve,
But we
including
specifically said that it
We
needed to
like
be
that.
more difficult.
make it more difficult.
Right.
And
Yes.
Opposite day.
so, we have to revisit that, but, city comment here was current zoning protected us from the double drive-through proposed by Chick-fil-A. John Rock feels it needs to continue to be strict and hard to achieve, wants to review the code to have current standards. John expressed front setback concerns. The comment from the consultant was, we'll review and make match existing code to disallow multi-lane drive-through facilities, which they did, but they still have the single plus the exit. Single drive-through facilities may be appropriate along Cedar Road, which is car-centric commercial, but not permitted in more pedestrian-centric areas like along Warrensville Center Road south of Silsby. Well, I don't disagree. I don't think it belongs on Warrensville Center Road either, but it's been just a tradition of this community that we don't have the drive-throughs. We have a couple here now,
Yeah, but South Euclid has
a moratorium.
Yeah.
moratorium on
drive-thrus.
drive-throughs, and I know Cleveland Heights just abhors them.
Mhm.
It's a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The language in the existing code, I believe it needed to be 2 or 3 acres.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
criteria.
it required 3, yeah, the reason we
That was a
could
little
kill
like
it
that.
was required 3 acres.
All right, so my note
And
to
they were
him will
under.
be to
Take it under.
maintain what I had said here.
Yeah, I think.
Cut
they
that
need
back.
to- They need to improve it, then that's something we'll have to highlight.
Okay,
yeah.
we only have 10 more minutes. I think we only have 2 more sections. So
Okay.
Cedar Center, Miramar to Fenwick. Okay. The comment from the city was double loaded parking. Should this be changed? They wrote, please clarify this comment. This is what we were talking about with parking in the front. I think it's going to be similar as neighborhood commercial. Building height varied. their comment was varied building heights can create visual interest when buildings are attached or grouped closely together, such as in an urban setting. When buildings are separated by distance, varied building heights are not an effective way or necessary. The rule of thumb for building heights is a 1-to-1 ratio between the right of way and the height of the buildings
So
fronting the right of way.
beware of like that building height, as was pointed out, that is on Taylor,
Mhm.
you know, to just have that big.
It's pretty tall for a very narrow street.
It's.
And that's not
it's-
following this 1-to-1 ratio.
Exactly. So
So I think
that's not,
wants to increase landscape buffer. Should we increase to 25 feet? Rear setback does not have enough buffering near residential. Want to increase 30 to 40 feet when it buffers residential, same as the side yard setback. Their comment is buffer areas can come in different forms. Parking can serve as an open space buffer between uses if placed in the rear yard. Green space buffers are typically 10 feet wide and can accommodate trees and bushes for screening and buffering. The width of the buffer depends on the depth of the lot and proximity of adjacent residential uses. Lots along Warrensville Center Road are shallower than those on Cedar Road. I thought it was the other way around. And will allow for smaller buffers than along Cedar.
I,
So
quite bluntly,
That that needs it.
I
Yeah.
can tell you a 10-foot buffer is nothing.
nothing.
Yeah,
And we said that
It's-
with
it's
John
gonna
Carroll
be there.
also.
Yeah, environmentally, you want the larger buffer, and I have a issue with them saying, oh, parking is a buffer.
no,
Yeah, no.
No,
Parking is not a buffer.
no.
We want a buffer from parking.
right.
Okay.
Do you remember what the John Carroll buffer was with Milford?
It's
It
like
was
right up
much-
against the
It was,
house.
no.
Yeah.
We made
It was
it,
like-
we made it larger.
10 feet?
That's
We
it.
made the minimum then.
Okay.
I think it should be more.
No, that one where it's up on butts to Milford,
Yeah.
I made them increase the
That's what I
size.
thought.
We increase it to 20.
We
Yeah.
made it
I
larger
managed to
than
get
10.
20 out of it.
Well,
So we have 10, it's possible.
the issue is that particular district between Fenwick and Miramar, so it's the traditional U9 district. Parking does go right up against the property line, so that is already a problem. So that University Square and Cedar Center South, it looks as though, I'm looking at the map
Well,
here,
It's parking's the buffer there.
Yeah. there's
yeah,
no
they're right
buffer
up
at all.
against,
But John, now we can change it.
right?
Yeah.
They're grandfathered in,
They
and
are.
if we ever redo, well, look what,
Well, when we're
look
talking
what
about
South
this-
Euclid did on their side. They
Yeah.
totally redid it.
Yes.
But we have to have the buffer in the code before that area gets redone in order to afford those houses on Lansdale, right? Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
or Bushnell, Lansdale. The
No.
buffer.
No.
All right, I know we're saying 10 feet is the minimum. The question was, should we increase to 25 feet? That was in a previous discussion.
I
I'd
think
give
it has to be
20.
more than 10.
Yeah,
I'd do
and
20.
if you're using Cedar
it
Center as an
20.
example, the north is so much more attractive
You're gonna-
and
Although the rear setback is just a couple feet.
is it?
Oh, no.
It's 2 feet.
I would say just a few. It's
Okay,
very
then
minimal.
there's something, you know. to look
Here's the
at.
thing,
We-
if we do 20 and somebody comes in
For
and they would
variance.
like a variance
You
to
can
10,
Get a variance.
you have something you can work with.
Mm.
But putting it down as 20,
Putting it down
you're,
as 10 is too.
you are more
Yeah.
10 is
likely
too
to end
little.
up with 20.
I like
Yeah.
that.
That's
or
a good idea.
15.
We
There's
should-
room for
instead of-
negotiation.
We should require a wall too,
Something.
not a fence, a wall.
There's no such thing as that.
Sorry?
The what?
Oh,
Guys.
oh, salting
So
and things
20.
like that.
That's true. So 20 with a wall.
Okay.
And the reason I'm not gung ho on fences, we've got a huge issue again, because the kids are in school with them hopping that fence behind University Corners. They tear the fence down. That
Yeah.
house at the end
This is
is
rough.
running into problems.
So are you okay with 20 and wall, John?
I would say if it's less than 20, a wall is required. 20 is going to be difficult to achieve because the parking's in the rear. I'm just going to be very honest about that.
But then they can come for the variance.
And I'm all for variance in that condition,
In
so
that
we can
condition.
mandate other things such as the wall, whatever.
Okay.
That one's just a tough one.
I'm good with you on 20.
All right, I'm gonna mark that down as a minimum. Side yard setback should be 5 feet minimum. This is our comment. Committee recommends lesser minimum setback. If you have 10 feet minimum on each side, you lose a unit. Oh, we talked about that with regard to the townhomes. His comment was same comment as the multi-unit district above. 5 feet does not allow for a drive aisle between the buildings and is unusable space. May consider 0 side yard. I think we ended up agreeing on this council, 10 feet was the minimum
And-
for the
yeah,
side yard.
good,
So I'm gonna
thank you.
make
Yeah,
that note for
side
this
yard
one as well.
less than.
Okay. Next category was Warrensville Center Road, which we discussed, and the last category is Title IV, which is the definition of family. And this was not meant to be contentious, but ended up becoming,
But didn't we say the ordinance that we pulled from that rental ordinance that we pulled back? That was the language we used.
I thought so too. The question or the city comment was, can this be finessed to be as inclusive as possible? The one comment I had was when they were talking about relationships that said 12 months was,
Oh, no.
why are we putting a time limit? People move in after a couple weeks now.
I think what we said is we have a very inclusive
Yes.
ordinance that we
Right.
pulled the language
Right.
from, but took out what you just said.
And somebody, a resident made a comment on that. I think that's maybe where it came from.
Oh,
They
okay.
had a.
And then we
suggested
also,
Something that was a lot more expansive.
Yeah, you're right.
I just rented a Airbnb on a vacation property and it said in there about travel companion or companion. And I thought, well, that's a word that could be
a
as
dog.
inclusive, because we were describing what these families look like. And I have a non-traditional family myself, but I'm like, companion could work.
Dogs are
Good word,
family.
actually.
Yep.
The consultant's response was, this is a tricky, especially in a city with a university. Maybe less of an issue if all students are being required to live on campus. We can take a look at revising this and make sure we are compliant with the fair housing laws. And where he's going with this is, that was the whole point of this discussion is we didn't want 6 students living in under one roof, or 3 students and then their boyfriend. So it's now 6 and you have 6 cars. I said, that is what the precipice of this whole discussion was to limit that. So we're limiting the amount of cars
Yes.
and not necessarily limiting family size.
And
So
we
they
could
have-
have an ordinance with a maximum amount of cars in a residential house too.
And residents based on size and closets and.
This, the whole thing was what's considered a non-family
Bedrooms and-
member.
Yeah, right. The question is right. If it's a family, it's hard to limit the amount of
Right.
people.
The composition of a household, nature of shared living space.
And this also came up in the idea of rental inspections. If your partner owns the home, and let's just say is away on military duty, and you're living in the home as a renter to you're not a renter, but you're not, your name's not on the title. Are you considered a renter? And the administration at that point was agreeing, yes, you were a renter and would follow these guidelines. But my argument was, no,
No.
you very much own the house just because your name's not on it. And that was dictating what that family side.
That would turn around and put a lot of women in the category
Yes, I was
of
gonna say.
not owning the home
That's
that they
right.
live in because the man put the house in his name.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's sexist.
So I think we need to look at that again.
I think we need to too.
Well, let them come back with language that we can. that we
They said they
can-
would. They said they would, as long as it's compliant with the fair housing laws. And the last thing was there are blanks, dashes on page 42. This was about the parking. They did not have the parking in there at that time. So their response was, yes, this means no minimum off-street parking or loading requirements for those areas. I'm sorry, that was something different. At that time, they didn't have the parking figured out. It is in the new code, so we'll look at that in the new
Can
one.
I just make a suggestion
Yes.
that, John, you work with Brad and Brad is the go-between
There you
between the
go.
administration
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And John, and I'm sorry to put that on you, but I think it will flow better because then all the suggestions will get in.
Right. I agree with that.
It reminds me of a situation I was in.
I mean,
Do it every day.
administration's not at this meeting, so we have to somehow disseminate that information.
Something I do
We
every
only
day.
have 4 months, kids.
Um,
Thank you, Brad.
So,
The trend is going away from having parking minimums. So there's
Yes.
different ways to handle it. There's.
You can't have
know,
parking
it
on the
can
grass.
be-
In the middle of the street.
There can be a requirement when, if it's a development, when the site plan's approved by planning commission, that, a parking standard can be tailored to whatever the project is, but there's different ways of handling it.
And then also, Mr. Rock, can we maybe set, like you said, the next 2 meetings
Yeah.
up? So,
so looking at the table of contents here, there are general provisions that we had not reviewed. It looks like that's just only a few pages. We can get that knocked out in the next meeting. We did go over zoning districts. So pages 6 through 22, at least we've had a first blush at. Actually, what we should do is look to see what changed. So we should just do
We have
that
to
next.
review it.
But we have to
That's
review
a
what
great-
changed. So let's focus on next meeting. Oh, and I would like to make this a standing meeting. Is there a particular, a standing meeting,
Yeah.
meaning we meet once a month on the same day of the month or first Tuesday of the month or whatever?
I think we
Should
look
make
at Brad's calendar. You have only certain days of the month that you're free. What are they? Monday?
Council meetings and committee meetings, the first and third Mondays.
But we also have committees at 6.
Right, that's what I'm
And
saying.
those are
So that's what I'm
set.
saying. So those days should be out.
and
Okay.
Tuesdays, you have your other,
Tuesday, it's the second Tuesday of the month,
Second Tuesday.
second Wednesday of the month, I have a standing
Oh.
meeting.
What about the alternate Mondays?
the third
Okay,
Monday.
The only Monday I'm not good at is the fourth Monday.
So maybe the second Monday of the month.
Yes.
How
Okay,
about that?
that
Just,
works.
You know, Monday
We need
meeting.
to get through more than 20 pages.
And sometimes they're.
Whatever we can get in 2 hours.
So it's
I mean-
not 12 months a year,
I'll set it
If we
at 2
see-
hours.
If we see
and
we need to make meetings.
We're gonna have to. This is gonna be a
Okay,
long
What
process.
if you just,
so second.
Second Monday
of
of
every.
each month
okay,
as a standing meeting,
goody.
which would, we'll say we have satisfied the September meeting. There's also a town hall, but it would have been September 8th if we were to honor that.
Please don't.
Second.
Not a-
I'm not doing it. I don't have the document read yet.
No.
All right, so then what we will say is the next meeting would be on October 13th.
Let me see.
Let me go right to that calendar.
It's okay if Sharon and I aren't there.
These things
Yeah,
fill up
won't be there,
fast.
But that's fine.
Is that a holiday?
It's okay.
It is,
The whole
yeah.
month is a holiday.
Oh,
Yeah. Sunset.
then you come
Yeah,
and you
it's
mess
okay.
it up.
No, you'll still
Fine.
have a meeting.
That's fine.
Okay. You'll be here. I need a quorum.
I'll be here.
You'll be here. and Teresa's the alternate.
You only need 2.
I only need 2 for the quorum, right? Okay.
And then
Just
November
economic.
10th.
Right. so
And November
Full
10th.
disclosure, November 10th, I may not be able to make it. I've got a
I might not be able to make it either.
out of
Okay,
the
then not
country
November 10th.
NFL commitment.
So,
The
Ah,
country.
ah.
so
How
you'll
about-
confirm next meeting then.
Okay.
We got one
How about-
and we can discuss,
You'll discuss the next one.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna say October 13th agenda is to look at the new zoning code revisions, the September 2nd draft, Title I and Title II, general provisions, and relook at the zoning district, see what changed.
Sounds great. Good plan.
It is 8:04. I'm gonna call this meeting, make a motion to adjourn. There's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See how
We are
quickly it
adjourned.
works.
Thank you all for coming. Don't forget, September 30th is the mayor's town hall.
It will be interesting.
Yeah.
And now you know when our next meeting is already. But I have 2 phones.